Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, Kugan Cassius, and some very special guests. Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
you get up, you dress up, and you fucking show up.
Oscar Bevis for IFL TV. Delighted to be joined by Mr. Ben Davison. Ben, thanks very much for giving me some of your time. Massive fight feel to Lee Wood and Josh Warrington.
Yeah, for sure. It is a mega fight. So to be honest with you, it's been a mega year for Lee Wood, isn't it? You know, Maurizio Lara twice and now Josh Warrington. There's not many champions that are defending their belt like that. So he deserves full credit. Full credit to Josh as well. That, you know, the two of them have got huge fan bases, and that's what's making this such a huge fight.
Did it kind of have to be a big year for Lee in the sense that you want to be one of those champions who has momentum, and then when they've got it, tries to capitalise? We see a lot of inactivity with belt holders. Was it always going to be like this for Lee, jumping into big fights and having big fights and trying to push his name as much as possible to make sure that when he does end, because he's in his prime years now, he leaves that legacy? Yeah,
for sure. You know, he's come into this golden era of his career, late on in his career, so you know, it's important that he capitalises on it. I think that I've always said this, that I think that Lee performs best when almost an underdog. You know, people don't expect him to be able to do what he sets out to do, and that brings the best out in Lee. So he thrives off of these tough fights, and you know, he's been coming through them, and he's improving each and every time.
You mentioned the word underdog. Do you believe the public would view Lee as an underdog in this sense? I mean, Josh has had quite a tough couple of years. COVID was a nightmare, really, for Josh. In comparison to Lee, it was kind of his making, I guess. But do you think there are many who perhaps might see Lee then as an underdog in this fight? Or?
No, to be honest, I think this time, to be honest with you, I think people are writing Josh Warrington off, if I'm being honest. I think that people are underestimating him. I think that people aren't taking into consideration the fact that when he boxed Lopez, he was coming off of a broken jaw against Kiko. I think naturally there was a lot of talk about Lopez being a big puncher. I think naturally it was going to take him a few rounds to warm into that and get comfortable. And once he did that, you know, it was a very competitive fight. Josh is no slouch for sure. I think it baffles me where people get this, you know, easy fight type attitude from, because no one's ever blown him away, and the one time that he did get stopped, he was completely gone in round 4, made it to round 9, so that shows what he's made of. I just think that both of these two fighters are fighters that thrive off of the atmosphere. Some fighters it's good for, some fighters it's negative for. I think both of these two guys are guys that thrive off of that atmosphere, and I just can't see it being anything but an absolute barnstormer.
Yeah, it's definitely, well, I'm praying it's going to be a cracker in the ring. Obviously, I don't want to be that guy to jinx it. How hard did you guys push for the fight to be in Nottingham? Obviously, on neutral territory in Sheffield. Going to kind of have that cup final feel, I guess, with a lot of both sets of fans. But as the champion, I can imagine Lee was at one point going, I want this to be on my territory. Yeah,
so we did push it real hard for it to be in Nottingham, but at the City Ground. Problem is with the arena in Nottingham is smaller. So then, it was purely a size problem. Yeah, Sheffield was then put to us. Then we did try to get the MEN and move whatever was in the MEN for that date, but we was unsuccessful in doing so. Just because I believe that this sells out the O2, this sells out MEN, the biggest arenas in the UK, I believe. So the next best option was Sheffield, and location-wise, it's in between the two, so it made sense.
It's going to be a serious scrum for tickets for the fans. Sure. In terms of what we might see in the ring, obviously Josh is never in a dull fight, Lee is never in a dull fight. I know it's kind of never that simple, but there will at least be periods of the fight where the pair are completely going at it, game plan or not.
Yeah, I just think that Josh's high volume up against Lee's power, you know, it just makes for a great fight. And like I said, I think that both of these guys are two guys that thrive off of the atmosphere and the crowd. And I can, as long as, for me, obviously, we want Lee to be smart with his decision making. But I can't see it not matching up to be an entertaining fight.
Yeah, mate, can't wait for October. Really going to be a proper night here in Sheffield. Got to talk to you about Terence Crawford, one of the best performances of all time in one of the biggest fights of all time. Just seriously stunning boxing, probably as close to perfection as he could have got in a fight of that magnitude, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I thought, when I was thinking about the fight, I thought to myself, if Crawford was to be getting pushed around the ring, which Spence would have hoped for, I can see that happening by Crawford constantly switching, trying to open up the distance, switch, not being decisive, not really having much structure to his work and sort of going off the fly. But I've been saying, I think that Crawford's an improving fighter. I say that because I didn't think he would go about it the way he did go about it. He come out southpaw, stayed southpaw, disciplined. He was actually able to push Errol Spence back. And he clearly went in there with a plan and was able to execute. I thought it was a fantastic performance, and at 35 years old, I think he's still performing. I thought we saw a little bit more of that against Davison, but for him to then go and do that against someone like Spence, I was really impressed.
It just seemed like every single punch, jab or not, was a power punch. There was so much composure. What does it take for a fighter like that, even mentally, to be composed in the ring? Because when you got the arena bubbling, one of the most, so people are so excited for the fight, for him to just kind of have like a serene feel in the ring, kind of as if no one was there. Like how does a fighter do that?
Well, actually, funny you say that. I haven't actually thought about it until you asked that question. What I was thinking about, what my answer was going to be. I was going to say I think it's important that when you shadow box, you put yourself in that scenario. You envision yourself, envision the opponent in front of you, envision yourself in there on fight night.
Do you think it's something you're born with?
No, I don't. I think that I was going on to my point where I've seen Terence training in the top ranked gym. When he shadow boxes, he's very intense. A lot of purpose to his work, and you can clearly see that he's visualising somebody in front of him. And I do think that's a huge factor in helping somebody remain composed in big moments of fights.
Yeah, obviously, there will be talk of the rematch, be it at 154. Both moving up. I know Terence will look at different options. It's still a big fight. Do you think it loses a little bit of the appeal, even if it is a different weight?
Yeah, I think when a fight's so one-sided as that, naturally it'll lose a little bit of appeal. But at the same time, if you're trying to sell a fight, they will play the whole weight card. But to be honest with you, I thought both of them looked terrible the day before, 2 days before the weigh-in at the press conference. But I actually thought Crawford looked worse than Spence, to be honest with you. And he's come out saying it wasn't easy for me to make weight and that. So, it shocked me when I saw Crawford at how he's grown into welterweight in person. That is when I see him in person. And yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think there'd be any difference at 154.
Just taking it back a couple of days to Naoya Inoue, serious power, and another one of the pound for pound top fighters.
Yes, ridiculously explosive. Timing's phenomenal. Again, it was a disciplined performance. Everything come off of that jab to the body, and I think that Fulton went in there with a plan to try and push Inoue back, but certain things Inoue was doing sort of prevented him from being able to do so. And I feel like Fulton got caught between trying to implement his game plan and trying to work out how to get around some of the things that Inoue was doing. So, another phenomenal performance, it really was.
Do you think with someone like Inoue, when he's billed as the monster, and there is that whole aura around him, do you think it can affect a fighter going into the ring? They can kind of have the second doubts about getting too close with distance? Because I don't know if you felt the same. I feel like there was times where I felt like Fulton, like he was perhaps a bit scared to get hit, just in case something might happen. Yeah,
a big part of it is the explosiveness. He's so quick, so explosive, and his timing's so good. That can make someone hesitant, even if they're not, take the power aside. So I do think that eventually, if keep moving up in weight, somebody with the size that's able to get closer, be a bit too physical for him up close, and almost smother that power, will have success there. And I believe that's how he will get beat, if he is to get beat. But it's a tough ask. And Stephen Fulton's a quality fighter. He's shown that with some of his previous victories. So it was a top performance. It was.
Just one final thing from me on KSI and Tommy Fury. Now, we saw Tommy fight Jake Paul, and Jake Paul has, albeit a lot of mixed martial artists, has been fighting combat sport fighters. KSI has been kind of doing the celebrity side of things, and people were talking about KSI and Jake meeting. Now we've got Tommy fighting KSI. Do you kind of feel like there's a bit of he slipped away a little bit from the boxing scene with the KSI fight? Jake Paul's maybe one thing. Do you feel like this is kind of maybe distancing himself a little bit from the boxing scene?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but you can't blame him. I think why this opportunity is here, he's got to take it. He's got to make the most of it. It's life-changing money. What he'll earn here compared to boxing for an English title or something. You can't blame him for making the decision to push down this route.
And you think it would be wise, I guess wise financially, but wise as a whole package to perhaps stay at this route?
I don't know, really.
I guess after KSI and Jake, it dries up for the big guys in that sense.
Yeah, but then he might become a big enough a star himself to start bringing the Nate Diaz's of the world, etc., etc. So, yeah, I don't know, but fair play to him.
Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, Kugan Cassius, and some very special guests, Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher, and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
You get up, you dress up, and you fucking shut up.